Hey, how are we doing? This is Darren from Targa. I wanted to go through a few simple setup things for VoiceFlow for you guys who are quite new to it. Um, VoiceFlow is always updating things. They obviously need to keep ahead, come up with new ideas, and I'm glad that they do. But that also means that the interface that you use can look different when you go back to it in the future. So as of November 2024, which is like now, this is how VoiceFlow looks. What I'm going to do for today is just show you how you can customize your chatbot to resemble this kind of appearance. Okay, so on VoiceFlow, if you were to go into the this setup menu here, this integration tab is where you need to be. Okay, now the first thing we see is this piece of script. Um, I know we describe VoiceFlow as like a no-code or a low-code tool, depending on what you want to achieve. But don't put off by the fact that this looks a little bit complicated. To be honest, I don't fully understand every single line of this, but I don't need to. Now, what this is a piece of script which needs to be added to your website. If you don't add this to your website, then you're not going to see your chatbot. But it's really a copy and paste exercise. Now, what I wouldn't want you to do is copy and paste this particular tag, because this will bring my chatbot up on your website. So in your own interface, this is what you'll find. And if you hit this link here, or a little button here, that'll just copy that tag into a clipboard. Then what you need to do is add it to your website. The way I do it on Targa Web is I have a separate file which is for the footer. In fact, I have many separate files depending on on the page and the element of the page. But anyway, just bear with me. The footer file is used right throughout the website. So all I have to do is open that footer file up and apply the content. I'm not going to show you that within the code text editor, but if you were to look at the page source here, in fact, I've got one open already, that script here is exactly what you've seen on the Targa oh, sorry, on the VoiceFlow interface. Hopefully that's self-explanatory. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments, and I'll get back to you personally on how to do it. Okay, now moving on, we've got some customization options. Now, if you look at the layout of this over here, okay, within this view, these are just sample messages. This is not how your chatbot looks, or sorry, not literally what your chatbot will say. The appearance is fairly typical of what you're seeing here. So how do you customize it? Now, when you simply make a text change in any of these boxes, the change will reflect here. And now it's quite obvious as you look at this what bits are changing. In fact, I'll tell you what. We'll call this place A, place B, just so you can see what these particular fields are controlling. Okay, you can say what you want in these. There are no hard and fast rules about what to say here, but bear in mind that there is a width restriction here. So if I was to put that in there, you can see that it gets truncated at the top. And that might even be more truncated when the viewer is looking at this on a website, sorry, on a mobile. So do bear in mind what you're saying here. Anyway, I'll add back in what I had before. And now moving on to the next field, never forget or forget after tab is closed. This is quite self-explanatory, but I'll just cover it very briefly. If you were to select the forget after tab is closed or reloaded, then basically when the user of your chatbot finishes their conversation, leaves it, and then comes back at some time in the future, all of the previous conversations will have been forgotten. So that might not be a bad thing in some cases, but there might be cases where you do want to allow your users to basically return to a conversation, or at least for the bot to have some kind of idea of what they've been talking to your user about previously. Okay, but experiment with it. There's two options here. It's very easy to switch between the two, and it's also very easy to test. So try these things out for yourself. Right, the next options are where you want the little chat bubble to be. By the chat bubble, I mean this little thing down the bottom right hand corner. Okay, again, these are self-explanatory. You can choose to have it on the right or the left. Typically, people have it on the right, and the side spacing is how many pixels from the bottom and from the right-hand side. Of course, if you were to select the left option, then these will apply to how many pixels from the left side. Next, we have the voice interface. Now, if you look down the bottom here, you'll see a little microphone symbol. Quite simply, that turns on and off depending on the toggle. I'd recommend you allowing your users to use the voice interface. It certainly wouldn't hurt for them to have this extra option, but of course you'll need to test it. Also remember that in a typical chatbot where a user is putting information in through the text box, you're also offering them buttons to use, and you want to make sure that any options that you're giving your users to input information or to select different options is actually working as it should do on the voice interface. Right, the powered by Voiceflow option. This little thing here, now I've got no problem at all with displaying that on my chatbots. I'm quite an advocate for Voiceflow. I'd certainly recommend it as a platform, and I'm also an approved content creator for Voiceflow. So yeah, I've got no reason to have that switched off. That's my preference. Now, appearance. You might find these options actually initially hidden by this drop down. Okay, the color, right? You will find as you toggle around this thing that the colors are changing. Okay, obviously select which colors you want. My preference is that I use the or I pull from the colors in my own website. I inspect. Okay, if I look down at the CSS file, you can see that I've got a number of predefined color options. Now, if this is looking a little bit too complicated for anybody who just does not want to look at code, then just bear in mind all I'm talking about here is getting some kind of consistency with the colors on my website. There are other ways to do this, of course, but let me just show you why I'm in here. I'm going to select this particular one because that's the color that I want my chatbot to display in, and I paste that 6-character code into here. By the way, if you're not familiar with what this hex is, it's a 6-character code. The characters go from 0 to F, and if you go all zeros, then it's black. You can see the options here. If you go all Fs, they're white, and you'll see that if I select different pairs, we've gone through the red, green, and blue, the RGB options. The max is the Fs, it's the highest value, and the lowest value for each RGB pair is 0. Okay, and back to my code, this is exactly what I need for the target colors. In fact, you can see the consistency with this and that. Okay. Now, the bubble image. There are defaults with Voiceflow. You're never kind of without an option to proceed with. That's good. But I prefer to have some kind of color coordination for my own purposes. The way that you can change these, I have a number of predefined options myself. I've used PNG files because they give me a nice quality to the image itself, but they also allow transparency. So if you look at, for example, if I choose that option here, right, although this little bubble behind here has stayed as a light blue, the reality is, if I refresh my page, that the color that I selected through that hex code process that I just went through earlier, that stays as a background, unlike the light blue background here. But the important thing here is the image here has changed. Okay, I'm just going to go back to my previous one because I prefer it, and that's this option here. Another nice touch is the way that you can edit these images. They are actually separate, although I'm showing the same image here. What you can do is choose the file that you want to use. I prefer to use a square image. Now, if I select this one, for example, this isn't square, as you can see, and I'll do that for both of these bubbles. It still shows quite a reasonable image, but if you've got a rectangular image where the subject is, let's say, too far to the right or too far to the left, you might not have as much control over this. And what we don't have in Voiceflow, certainly not yet, I don't know whether it'll ever happen, is that we've only got the ability to import an image. What we haven't got the ability to do is move it around and crop it and resize it within the bubble. So again, just to illustrate that point, the subject of this, which is just me posing on a beach in Florida, I'm not happy with the positioning of that. What I would need to do is perhaps go into, or at least select a different image, of course, or I could just go into a photo editing tool like Photoshop and manipulate that image. The one that I actually want to proceed with, though, is this one. And like I'm showing you here, these images here, the agent avatar is this one. The agent image is this one. Okay, and you can see, let me just change this again. And you can see that each message that or response that the chatbot displays is accompanied by this image here. Okay, these two are the same. That is a different thing. You might want this to be your company logo. It's entirely up to you. Let me just go back to where I wanted to be. And that's pretty much it for the customization. Like I said, this being November of 2024 means that this is how Voiceflow's customization interface looks currently. There may well be changes that happen through the following year. So if you're looking at this video sometime in the future, there may be some differences to your interface and what you see on the screen here. If you have any questions or need any assistance, feel free to drop them into the chat or get in touch via the website. And of course, if you want to try Voiceflow out for yourself, I'll leave the link in the description below. In the meantime, good luck and catch you on the next one.